think he could be feeling too bad this morning, because he's reading over that stuff we did last night.
You know, I don't think I shall ever forgive David for last night. He woke me up at 5 to tell me all about his dreary book. I think he was awfully proud of himself for having worked a couple of hours on it, poor lamb. Tell me, Peter, honestly, what do you think of it?
Of his book? I think it's very good.
I said honestly, darling.
Well, I think the subject's so uninteresting. I mean, who the hell wants to read a life of King Bomba of Naples? I mean, he's not the most awfully important character, historically speaking, is he?
Don't say that to David or he'll kill you. As a matter of fact, I agree with you. I think King Bomba is torture.
But I'm not saying I don't think the book is good. I think it is. I think David's got a magnificent brain for history. If only he'd...
If only he'd use it a little bit more. Is that what you were going to say?
As a matter of fact, yes it was.
You are a serious-minded little thing, aren't you?
All right, I am. So what?
So nothing, darling. So nothing. Actually, I think it's very good for David to have someone like you around. As a matter of fact, if you could get him to finish that book, I'd be eternally grateful.
Really? Why?
I don't know. I just think it would do David an awful lot of good to finish that book, dreary though it is.
You surprise me sometimes, Jim.
Do I, darling? I've no idea why. Oh, God, people. I'm in no mood for people. I'm going to go and hide in David's room.
Mr. and Miss Banner are here, madam.
Mr. Banner, Helen's got married, Peter. I told you she would.
It's her brother, I imagine. Still, I don't know what she thinks she's doing bringing him around here.
Oh, nonsense. Delighted to have them.
Shall I show them in here, madam?
Yes, Williams. Peter, you'll entertain them for me, won't you? I think you've got everything you want here. If you want anything else, just ask Williams, all right?
I didn't know you could get real like this in London. It's more like New York.
Sorry. Helen, it's only that you don't know David very well, and I'm afraid...
Afraid of what, darling?
I'm afraid he'll be rude to you or something when he finds out.
I'll take the risk, Peter.
What have I got myself into?
Well, I expect it'll be all right. Now, I've been told to entertain you. What do you have to drink?
No, I don't drink, thanks.
What about you, Helen?
Not in the daytime, darling.
Well, anyway, let's sit down. David may be ours yet. What's the news, Helen?
Oh, Lord, are they expecting anyone this morning?
I have no idea, but you know people are always dropping in here.
Yes, the most awful people, too.
Mrs. Brown and Mr. Carter.
Hello, darling. Happy to see you. Peter, my angel. How are you? You look lovelier every day. How do you do it?
I don't think you've met my brother George.
Oh, how do you do? Why haven't I met you before?
I've no idea.
We've just got back from the Touquet practically this minute. Oh, I'm stinking. We took a bottle of brandy up in the aeroplane with us, and of course, we had to finish it before we got to Croydon. Because of the customs. We had the most torturous weekend. I can't begin to tell you how awful it was. I lost my drawers.
Oh dear.
Oh, it really was torture. I couldn't do a thing right. If I had 8, the other man always had 9. I mean, it got to be a joke. Cyril played bull and made a little money, didn't you, Cyril? I must tell you, I had the most awful scene with a horrible little man who banked a bank of mine. You see, I made a perfectly natural mistake. I gave him 3 cards of something, the sort of thing that happens to you when you've had a couple of drinks. And he called me a drunken old bitch. In French, too, which was worse, so of course I couldn't stand for that. So I hope you didn't catch killed in that aeroplane, Cyril.
I haven't been introduced yet.
Oh, I am so sorry. This is Mr. Oh, hell, I always forget.
Carter?
Oh, Mr. Carter.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Quite well, thanks.
Ducky. What about a tingy-wingy little dinky boo?
I beg your pardon?
A drink, for God's sake.
Yes, I'm sorry. What would you like?
Oh, brandy, I suppose I started on it.
And you?
Same, please.
Those monsters Joan and David aren't up yet?
No, I don't think they are.
Was there a party last night?
Not a party.
Oh, angel child. God, you are heaven to look at, Peter. I hope you realise how lucky you are, Helen.
Yes, I suppose I am.
Thanks. I'm sure.
Julia, you old cow, how are you?
Drunk as a fly, darling. How are you? Now, you've met Cyril, haven't you?
Have I met you, Cyril?
Yeah, we went out last Thursday.
How are you? Julia, darling, I'm sure you've got everything in the world to tell me. Why don't you come and talk to me while I'm having my bath?
I have the most heavenly bit of dirt to give you. Now, you know Arthur Park Weston, don't you?
The one who shot that girl and got off.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
Come along, Cyril. Oh, he won't look, Jill. I put him in the corner with his face to the wall. Well, he was a little tookie with the... Cyril!
Oh, Lord!
Well, well.
Poor George, were you shocked?
No, of course I wasn't. As a matter of fact, it was rather exciting. First time I'd ever met those sort of people.
Yes.
Only read about them before.
Yes, I know the feeling. Whenever I meet Julia Brown or any of the gang that come roaring into this flat, I always get the feeling they don't quite exist.
They don't really.
What have I just seen then? A couple of phantasmagoria?
Oh, George, what a lovely word.
Not be able to say it again, don't worry.
Actually, what Helen meant was that these people are so busy putting on an act, they haven't got time to be themselves.
Perhaps they haven't got any self.
Oh, yes, I think they do. Quite nice ones, too, some of them. I just wish I knew why they were always so ashamed of showing them.
They think it's boring to be oneself. That's their favourite word, boring. So, John called me a bore this morning just because I was trying to find a decent job.
You know what the trouble is with these people, really, don't you? They've got too much money.
It's a trouble I wouldn't mind having myself then.
No, really. I think it's rather pathetic. They might all have been quite different if they'd been given a proper chance. It must have been awful having to grow up without having to work.
Peter, Leopold I wasn't King of Belgium, he was King of the Belgians, you ought to know that. Hello, Helen.
Hello, David. This is my brother George.
How do you do? Haven't you got a drink?
I don't want one now, thanks awfully.
Nobody else?
How are you feeling this morning, David?
Oh, just about as well as could be expected, I should say.
You don't have that pain again, do you?
What pain?
That pain you had yesterday in your side?
Oh, that's only that old wound I got in the Crimea. Only hurts when it rains.
David, please.
Will you excuse me if I talk shop for a moment? Peter, one of us must have been very drunk last night.
I wasn't.
When I was,
Why, don't you like the stuff we did last night?
as they say so expressively in America, it stinks.
I thought it read rather well.
But that's just the trouble with it. It reads too well. We'll have to work on that chapter again.
All right, this afternoon?
No, not this afternoon. Sometime. Well, Helen, did you get that job you were after?
No, I don't think so.
Well, you probably have loathed it anyhow.
David, I have something to ask you. Kind of favour.
Anything short of my honour.
My brother George is a doctor.
Oh, really? What a delightful life that must be.
Don't you think, as he's here, it might be a good chance of him getting to have a look at you, just to see if there is something wrong with you? I mean, there probably isn't, but it's a good thing to make sure, don't you think?
You shouldn't do this sort of thing, Helen.
It wasn't a plot or anything. George just happened to be here, and I suddenly thought that...
Just a sudden inspiration. I see. And what does Dr. Banner think about the idea?
Oh, I'd be quite willing to take a look at you if you're worried about yourself in any way.
I'm not in the least worried about myself.
Still, from what Helen's told me, things aren't quite functioning as well as they should be. Probably just something wrong with the old works we could put right in a couple of seconds.
The bedside manner so early in life.
Of course, if you don't want me to take a look at you.
It's terribly kind of you to make the offer. Quite frankly, I don't think it's worth your trouble.
Very well then. I must be off. Got a lunch date.
David, please, as a favour to me.
As a favour to Helen, will you please examine me, Dr. Banner?
I've already said that I would.
We'd better go into my room.
Right.
What Helen wants you to say, of course, is that I'm drinking myself to death. So I feel I ought to warn you before we start that if you do say that, I shan't believe it.
If I say it, then it will be true.
I still won't believe it.